Scott Genstad is enjoying the holiday weekend with the family, but fear not. I've got dead pull hitter. I found someone else that's smarter than me to help co-host the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball podcast. We'll be doing that next, talking FAAB, news, week ahead, and a whole lot more. Stay tuned. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the RotoWire Fantasy Baseball podcast. I'm Jeff Erickson here with my co-host for the evening, Rob DiPietro. You can find him on Twitter at deadpullhitter.com or at deadpullhitter. And you can find his Patreon, which has 3 different levels. It's also called Dead Pull Hitter, ironically enough. Fantastic NFBC player, frequent guest on this show. You've heard him before. You know him. You know he's great. Rob, welcome. How are you?
I'm fantastic, Jeff. Thank you so much for having me here. It's always a great honor to come on the RotoWire pod, and especially to fill in for this massive man that we know as Scott Genstad. Yeah, just big time. But thank you for having me. I love being here.
Of course. So, how was your weekend? We'll go into the details of FAAB, but did you have a productive evening, if you will?
In FAAB, yeah, it was very simple this week. It was keeping the bids low, nothing eventful. It was one of those where I look back and I said, wow, I spent several hours just to have this turnover. And it's just, They seemed like such minuscule moves. But, at the end of the day, I think we pour in a lot of time just to try to make any incremental change that we can. So sometimes, even if it's not a wow player or something that seems like great right now, it could develop into something great. So
exactly right. Let's jump into the news. It's a tricky week with injuries because we got the All-Star break coming up in a week. So anybody that's day-to-day, often you'll see teams kind of say, okay, screw it. We're going to put you on the IL. You get 15, 5 of those 15 days are going to be covered anyhow. It's not 15 games, it's 15 days. All these day-to-day guys, it's really tough to kind of straddle and figure out if, okay, we're going to have them this week or not. Starting with Clayton Kershaw, who's been amazing so far this year, but man, he gets hurt every year. Seems like they kind of play games around the All-Star break and maybe down the stretch as well. It looks like we might see him go on the IL.
Yeah, that's tough. He has just been fantastic. There's nothing that can be said that we haven't said about Clayton Kershaw. Big shoes to fill. The Dodgers always seem to find ways to patch it together. I guess Michael Grove looks like he'd be the biggest benefit of this right now. And yeah, they're really relying on the youngsters and Sheehan and Bobby Miller. Just really goes to show you how well stocked they are and how much, they could just turn it around so quickly. Urias had a pretty BABIP day, I think, yesterday. A lot of people were noting that soft exit velos and just balls that were finding the hole. So together, I think they'll make this work, even if Kershaw needs to miss extra time,
Going into the weekend, the Dodgers had the 10th ERA in the National League. Not in baseball, the National League. And it did not improve over this weekend. Tony Gonsolin, again, another bad outing. And we all saw the correction train coming down the tracks. I mean, we know that all it takes is looking at one line of like strand rate or BABIP or, hey, just expected ERA versus actual ERA. The velocity is down. All these chickens are coming home to roost. I thought we could get away with it against Kansas City. We could not.
Yeah. He's a weird guy, Gonsolin. I've never really gotten any stock of him last year, this year. Just always seemed to be not just something, just so many cracks in it that I just got to keep just working and he gets the wins. But this year I really stayed away. But the last 2 games, it just seems like he just couldn't find his own early in the at-bats. And then he just let up some big time hits. So, yeah, but I think he just does enough for them to get it into the bullpen. Their offense just keeps him in so many games. And I think that's so huge with the Dodgers. It doesn't have the depth, but still got those guys at the top that without that depth at the bottom, they're still going to put up so much. So
they've got the lineup still. It's the pitching though. And the bullpen's bad too. That's the other thing. That's the other revelation that people are discovering is that this is a bad bullpen. So the Gonsolin's formula is problematic because, okay, get the game to the bullpen. Oh, wait, we don't want to do that.
Right. It seemed like it's a good match to get the White Sox on board and send a
Mhm.
pitcher, send over Liam Hendricks, or maybe even Graveman, maybe a 2-pack there, and just bolster the staff and the bullpen.
I'm glad you brought that up because, there's few teams that are selling. We just saw Aroldis Chapman get dealt to the Rangers. That's the only real significant trade we've seen so far that I can recall. But the Dodgers didn't spend much in the offseason. A lot of talk about saving, trying to get under that luxury tax threshold, or at least the most punitive one of them, and save their money for next year when Ohtani's a free agent. Maybe they don't go crazy at the trade deadline this year. Maybe they're content with 90 wins. Before I think people were saying, "Oh, content with 95," but maybe it's 90 now.
I guess that's the range they'll need to get into. They just seem to be so content with and I question it a lot. It's like their outfield, they're just putting
Mhm.
Heyward and Peralta in versus righties. But every time I look at what they do versus righties, especially Heyward, been really surprising this year. Like 8 home runs versus righties and like a 12% barrel rate versus them. And he's hitting the ball further and with more exit low when he pulls it than in a long time. And it's just wild how they pieced that in, and especially with Outman getting off to a great start, but he's been really bad. Like the swinging strikes and the
Right.
chase have been brutal. Vargas has it's a good profile right now. I think he's going to correct a little bit. I don't think he's that as bad as he's been the last 30 days, but they just do it like I don't know. I don't know how they work it, but I think everyone's going to be going for Ohtani next year. So they're going to be in for some bidding war, I think.
Yeah, for sure. And the Yankees will be involved. Angels, I mean, don't count the Angels out.
True.
They have money also.
Yeah.
The Giants are dying to spend money on somebody. They just can't seem to do it. There's no shortage of suitors, so we'll see what happens. But it's going to be remarkable to see what sort of money he commands. Ohtani hit another one that I talked about this on Twitter today. Not the first, the actual Angels broadcaster did it first, but reminiscent of Barry Bonds in the World Series against Troy Percival, hit it into to that tunnel. It was amazing. So, that's one of the things like I love about a Sunday afternoon. I'm working on my FAAB and I'm watching the Grid channel. I'm watching all the games, and you see something that catches your eye, and you just like rewind, watch it again, and all that.
He's just I just try to tell myself don't ever take him for granted. And I've even tweeted that out a couple times. Just like cherish this guy that we have in front of us because it is truly a blessing. And as much coverage as there isn't enough.
Agreed. Agreed.
It's so amazing. He's just unbelievable talent. And it's so good to watch him.
It's so awesome being on the West Coast. So I see all of his at-bats too. It's pretty much there.
Absolutely. My night times are filled with Ohtani and some Tatis and bets. Like when it goes to West Coast, I'm mostly just player hopping during the
Sure.
There he is, Paul Sporer, my nemesis.
Yeah. So I take it you grabbed Ohtani and right in front of Paul in the main, huh?
He was, I think, about 4 picks after me, if I remember, but I grabbed him 3rd overall in the first round.
So
and then I doubled it up with DeGrom, who's wasn't the safest of choices, but
no. So next year,
yeah.
Ohtani or Acuna, 1.1.
Ooh, I think it has to be Acuna right now. But it's so close. It's so close. I think Ohtani could definitely close the gap with each day he gets there. But I mean, if Acuna ends up, 30 home runs and 60 stolen bases or something like that, that's just incredible. And I think that the amount of stolen bases you need now to compete for either an 80th overall or just like, top 5 in your league. There's some guys who have 187 stolen bases already as a team in the main event. And it's just really nuts. So I think just that edge would lean to Acuna. And I think that Ohtani and I do believe Tatis should be in that conversation because he's, even with the limited time he's playing, he's on pace for a 35-45 season.
I was just going to ask you if there was another, and there is.
He's the other. And then of course I'll still throw Strider in there. I think the massive gap he gets in strikeouts is just so big to have for pitchers. Like, he has like 50 more strikeouts than Corbin Burns. Just think about that difference, and like, especially if you use SGP and like the value of a point, and strikeout. So I think those 4 will be pretty locked in. And I think we might get this year. We didn't really have an auction league down in Vegas for the NFBC. We really didn't have the high priced batter that 3 years ago there was 3 guys in the $50 range. It was Trey Turner, J Ram, and Acuna. And this year they weren't. They were like $45, $46 maybe max. But I think next year Acuna might even approach 60 if someone's brave enough to do it.
Yeah, he very well might. He very well might. I'm glad you mentioned Strider too. 9 Ks today, got the win over the Marlins. He got that one inherited run in the 7th. There's only 2 earned runs though, so another good outing. Yeah, he got his 10th win too to boot. So Braves keep on rolling, and
they do.
Yeah, I think Strider and Cole will still be the first 2 pitchers next year.
Yes.
I'm not counting Ohtani because I just count him as a hitter, but especially for NFBC purposes.
100%. I would agree. Those 2 guys are pretty much locked in unless something really dramatic happens. Even with the lowered Ks, Cole is still in the upper echelon of them, and he's just so reliable to just throw innings. The guy's just a horse out there, and that's huge.
Exactly. One more for next year's questions. Corbin Carroll, what are you doing with him next year?
Oh, so it's funny. We did, the NFBC is doing those gladiator drafts during the All-Star break, but they had one when they normally have the second chance leagues. They ran a couple of the gladiators. So in my Patreon and through the Discord, I threw it out there if anyone wanted to do a draft. And so we threw one in there. And so I had the 3rd pick, and they gifted me Acuna with the 3rd pick. I don't know how that happened, but on the come around, Corbin Carroll was there, and I couldn't press that button fast enough. I think he's gonna be top 5-10 pick.
I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, if J-Rod was this year, Carroll is having a better year than what J-Rod was doing last year.
Absolutely, and I just think like the swing and strike and the contact ability is such a big difference from J-Rod that that'll keep that average a little higher. And just what a skill set. And it's good to see that, because a lot of people were questioning, the power output because of the torn labrum and such. And it could be an issue right now, but for what he's done, he's just been magnificent. So I say, I think he won't go, if everything's healthy, he's not going past pick 10 next year.
I think you're probably right about that. Yeah. So Carroll was out of the starting lineup today, but he did later on pinch hit, grounded into fielder's choice. But at least he's able to hit. That's also, now we know they're not putting him on the IL. So probably a start going into this week then.
Yeah. And I think what he even said too is like, if he never had the surgery and that feeling, then he probably would have been like, that's just a little twinge. But he's had it, and it's like in his head. So that was like, it heightened it a little bit for him. So it may even just be, like they're just playing it super extra careful. So hopefully he gets back out there.
Yeah, exactly. A guy that we're hoping gets back out there left today, Jazz Chisholm, left oblique injury. Not great.
Yeah, not good at all. He hate to slap the injury, prone label on anybody. I think he just plays with such force, and he everything he has is fast twitch, and I don't think he can help himself from not getting hurt, but just putting his body, in way of getting hurt, So it's a shame too, because every time he gets in there, he just really flashes what he could do. 9 home runs and 14 stolen bases, 180 plate appearances. It's really big time numbers there. And but the Marlins just keep trucking by somehow with a team that everyone said wasn't going to do anything. Yeah. So, but Jazz is a big loss. These oblique injuries aren't very simple to heal from. So I'm guessing he's going to at least take a couple of weeks off if it's really bad.
I think so too. I mean, we'll get an indicator tomorrow. I mean, they play on Monday. They face the Cardinals, home against the Cardinals, and then the Phillies. So big homestand actually for the Marlins. No rest this week. Seven full games. They're and then we'll be back at it there. So that's going to be one of those key decisions. But I would bet against him playing. I'm with you on that, which is a shame because they're missing a start from Wainwright, which sadly enough is a can't miss moment there. You really want those starts against Wainwright at this point in time. Plus, it's just the Marlins. I mean, they're right in the thick of the wild card race. They need him.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's going to be a big miss. But they have, they get random spurts from guys that just pick up the slack. Like Garrett Cooper goes hot for a couple of weeks, and
Mhm.
I think the big thing is Gene Hagura, and whether or not he can get to some semblance of his former self, or he's just going to be not good enough that he'll get platooned a lot. I think he was pretty. He was added a bunch this week. They got a full week for that reason as well, and he just came back and he's healthy. So.
Yeah.
But it was pretty cheap all across the board. Max $18 for Segura this weekend in the main event. So I guess
cheap.
I think that's more a testament to how I think we feel about his skill set right now, and him possibly not playing every day because they got Birdie and Wendell, and they all move around in the infield.
Is it just me, or have we spent more on FAAB this year than in previous years by this point?
Yeah, we have for sure. Then we get a lot of coverage now in FAAB. I know Dom, the bullpen guru, puts a one out on my website, pullhitter.com, every week, and we discussed it every single week, and it's like a big part of what I do for my FAAB article, my FAAB pod too. I'm really trying to get the ranges that I think this is a good way to look at what's available to us and just learn the trends.
Right.
It doesn't mean it's going to make you a phenomenal player, but it just means that you're really trying a little harder, I guess, to just learn even just your league. Just take a quick glance at your league and see how much 2-star pitchers normally go for, see how much lefties with 4 righties Monday to Thursday usually go for. I think those things are really huge to and that's what's gotten me to be so much better as a player, because my first main event, I got whooped. I played in the league with Rob Silver and Phil Dussault and Gecko, Mark Drebo, and I was just fascinated by these ads that I really didn't understand at first, and then I was like, oh, okay, this is what's going on. So I think if you pay attention to that, it helps. But the FAAB is wild. But I think a lot of it is justified.
Oh, I agree.
That's the thing.
You should max out on Ellie De La Cruz. You should be. Matt McLean has been worth every penny until this weekend. Yuri Perez has been worth every penny. I mean, there are some that are going to flop. We haven't had too many closer hits so far. If you snuck in an Alzolay, great. If you got Will Smith at the beginning of the season, even better. But it's like Paul said, it's the nonstop every week. It's the pitching prospect stud of the year, of the month, of the week. And that there's always a good guy to bid on. And with the attention in our community paid towards analyzing FAAB, it's also gonna it raises the bids because everybody's listening, everybody's paying attention, everybody's more informed.
Absolutely. And everyone has access to so much stuff now. That's the thing. It's like we know Emmett Sheehan's spin rate and in the mind, well, not we just know everything, the ins and outs, and we're making the stuff plus metrics, and we're just making these assumptions because of all these things that we're looking at. And that's why I think when you can get a glimpse, at least one start at someone, and at least just watch the game. That's my thing too. I just really try to watch those pitchers pitch. Like the first time I watched Bryce Miller, I know it was against Oakland, but I was like, wow, this, you saw the looks on the batters' faces. Like, what did that fastball just do?
Yeah. Just wait till he gets another pitch. He's going to be dead.
I know. The other night that he came out with the blister, before they visited him out in the blister, he had a 75% whiff rate on all pitches, and it was just nuts. They couldn't touch him, and then that blister came, and but even Abbott, there was a lot of question about his swing and miss ability. It kind of tempered my bids a little bit. I was semi-aggressive. I think I was in the $88 range. I think he went for like 108 in my league.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, look at this now. It's like, and it just goes to show you, sometimes it comes quick and sometimes it takes a while to develop. But Abbott, it didn't look like it was going to happen. That's why a lot of people, sharp analysts are just like, oh, the O swing is not there. He's getting hit in the zone. He's got the BABIP. And it was like, if you follow those rules, like those fantasy baseball staples, it didn't make sense. But if you watched it, that was my thing. I was watching him pitch, and same thing, he made Goldschmidt look foolish twice in a game. And I was like, that's not easy to do,
Yeah. Right.
And he's just like a pitcher. He's just a baller up there. I've loved watching him pitch. He's a little bulldog out there, Abbott.
Abbott's part of my Jeff is wrong tour for 2023 because I went Smith-Shawver over Abbott, in part because Abbott had the 2 starts in that first week, so you weren't going to, Smith-Shawver was going to pitch again on a Monday, where Abbott pitched on Sunday for his second start. Yeah, and I also partially thought too, okay, fine, he beat the Brewers, who strike out more than anybody else, against lefties on the road. Like, okay, that's great. And then the Cardinals are kind of down, but I was like, okay, he's got the Astros coming up. That's not great. He was fine. He was great. In fact, the only team that's really caused him any trouble at all are the Rockies, but not in Coors Field, where they hit the 3 solo bombs. But even then, I'm just like, it's just one of the many things critical decisions. Like, got 1 and 1A, but they're really 1 and 37. It's like huge difference if you went one way or another.
Do you temper your bids when it's a team you root for, like with the Reds? Do you find yourself like not trying to be too invested, or like this is great, this is gonna work? I don't know if you have that feeling at all.
I have at times, without a doubt. And probably at the start of this year when I was supremely negative, yes, I absolutely did. Because my mentality was like, well, if he's good, at least I get to root for him, but I don't trust, I don't have any Alexis Diaz this year. I didn't trust, even though I'm the one that posted on RotoWire the update with it's not like I did the original reporting. Those were all the reporters, but David Bell came out and said, Diaz is going to, I hate using this term, but he's going to close games for us this year. I might still use him in the 8th in a key situation, but he never says that. And I even made a point of saying that. And yet, did I follow my list? No. I was like, never David Bell.
Right, that's the thing. Yeah, we fall into the coach speak bias. Like if they told us one thing once, we're like, I can't believe him again.
Kepler too.
Yep, absolutely.
I have no Duvall this year either.
Kepler's an interesting one too, because he's had seasons with the full closes. Like he had Neris the 1 year in Philly, Duvall now. So he's done that, but it's also, like you said, it's hard to really buy in with these guys when they've showed us even a glimpse of like being dishonest.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Kepler was mega dishonest last year with the whole McGee thing. Now, McGee kind of pitched his way out of it too. So that's shame on me for not just looking at the skills and not just, all that. So there's plenty of blame to go around there. I want to mention 2 other injuries real quick. Garrett Whitlock and Michael Kopech both got hurt. Well, Whitlock got hurt today. Kopech went on the IL today. Let's start with Whitlock. It's been a disappointment anyhow. Had some Ks today, but man, he can't seem to stay healthy, and he hasn't really hit his stride at any point this season.
Yeah, he goes through ups and downs very, very easily. And I think every time I've early in the season when I was assessing him for like a FAAB and even in an OC, I was looking at him. It's like, okay, it's not really there. And then I'll go back and look after 2 starts, and it's like, oh, he's getting a lot better. But there was most of the start, I was just wondering when they were just going to put him back in that Swiss Army role, because he seemed to just do so well in it. And I just been waiting for him to go back into that role. But he's had some really good games, but I think most of the games are, over half of his games, he's given up more than 4 runs. So, so I think there's several suitors that are possible. I think Nick Pivetta can step right in there again. He threw 4 innings today with 6 strikeouts. He's been really good in the bullpen. But I think he can get a shot again. And I saw somewhere too that was mentioning James Paxton might be going on the paternity leave this week, so they may need a starter there too. So we may get like a Brandon Walter, who made a brief start last week or 2 weeks ago, I believe, a lefty. So they're gonna have to do some stuff here. But Whitlock, I think for Whitlock and Houck, I was expecting them both when they were at full force with Sale, Paxton. I was expecting them to be bridges to the bullpen, or just maybe even guys who get 3 innings saved. I just thought Whitlock did that so well. When they had him 3 innings saved, 1 inning saves, or 4 inning like bulk follower, he just did whatever. And I think he really thrived in that. Like he was even in that role, he was, I think, more startable than he kind of is now, because you could just put him in there. You got a win, a save, strikeouts. So I think that's the ultimate destination for him.
Yeah, and I think if Chris Sale's not on the IL right now, they probably have already gone there. And if Corey Kluber would have worked out at all too. I mean, that's two pieces of the puzzle missing, so they kind of got forced into following through with that there. But I think that's right. Red Sox had a good weekend though. Swept the Blue Jays in Toronto.
Yeah, they really made some shrewd moves this year that I think kind of, go unnoticed and not talked about enough. The Yoshida signing was really, it looks really good right now. I think we were questioning that. The James Paxton, erases any bad thing they've got with Kluber, because that was just, he came back to be the old James Paxton. And I like the way they're set up. I think, like, in some ways, they could make a nice push for the playoffs here, as long as they really get that starting pitching formed up. And I think with Bayo, you're getting a guy who's becoming like an automatic start. He's been great too. And Carter Crawford, as he's gotten stretched out, has been better. He's getting a lot of swing and miss, and he's another formidable starter there. So they need to shore that up, and I think they'll be fine.
Yeah. Michael Kopech went on the IL today. That's a shame. He was pitching well. Misses out on an Oakland start. Inflamed shoulder. That's never great. Tuki Toussaint got the start. Couldn't get through 5. Kopech had that hideous outing early in the season and had a couple other friends to go along with it there. But 408, 136, 97 Ks at least in his 86 innings. But yeah, this is not good.
Definitely not good. But I'm not, I got him in 2 spots, and I'm holding until we got some more news from him. Last month wasn't the best for him, but so the last 2 or 3 starts. But I got him when several people dropped him, when he just was giving up a whole bunch of runs.
Right.
But I think it was one start where my friend and my co-manager, Ryan Anancio, he texted me like, Kopech is getting hit, but he just threw 97 in the 7th or whatever it was. But it's just like he hit really high velo. He hasn't hit like deep in the games, and it carried into the next game too. So I kind of took a speculative shot on him. I remember winning. I remember when I had like 22-20. It was really close. And I was like, we'll see how this goes. And it was great. So I'm definitely just going to hold him for now. And I think that whatever was bothering him seemed like may have been partly to blame for, his June struggles. But
those short starts, those 4-inning starts are just so frustrating.
Yeah, they're super. Absolutely.
Exactly. All right. So, we hit up on a couple of the injuries here. We're going to take a look at the week ahead, and we're going to look at FAAB. But first, got to take a tick to do a couple of promotional notes. First, we're on the Blue Wire Network. Happy to be there. Here are their ads. All right. And then we also have a new sponsor. Thank you for your indulgence there. We have a new sponsor this week. We're ready for Home Run Index to join us here. So we know the weather can impact how far a ball can fly, but we never know what all that heat and humidity or cold air is really doing to the ball. The Home Run Forecast Index gives us an easy way to determine how good or bad the air is for ball flight. The index is calculated by measuring stadium-specific weather conditions and is displayed on a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being the most favorable for good ball flight, and 10 indicating the most favorable air. There is a strong correlation between the index and the number of runs scored per game and the number of home runs hit. Games that have the highest index, 10 for the whole game, average over 10 runs and 2.6 homers over the course of the year. An index is created for each game so you can see what it will be in any stadium and how the weather's influence might change over the course of the game, and as well as the wind direction. Right now, you can get access to the HRF premium site for only $5 a month and see what the index will look like for every hour of every game. Go to homerunforecast.com right now to sign up. Thank you to homerunforecast.com. I'm here with Rob DiPietro. He is, of course, at Deadpool Hitter on Twitter, and he has his Patreon site. Has 3 different levels. Really good stuff here, guys. You should check it out. You can find the link in his Twitter bio. You can go to Patreon and search Deadpool Hitter. Really good stuff there. Rob, tell everybody quickly, the 3 different levels and what they can find.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, if you go to Patreon and search, it'll just be pull hitter.
Okay, pull
That
hitter. All right.
Yep, dead pull hitter is just really the Twitter thing because pull hitter was taken and he didn't want to give it up. So
Gotcha.
dead pull hitter on Twitter it is. But yeah, so go to Patreon, search in pull hitter. You can get the link in my Twitter bio as well. They got 3 levels. $5 level gets you in. It gets you. I do a daily recap of the box scores, usually about 5 days a week. And the days that I kind of take off, I just combine the previous days into another one. And I just write the notes, you know, on the Patreon as well. So it's
Right.
like a full article that kind of goes hand in hand. You'll get the Launch Angle podcast with Jeff Zimmerman and Rob Silver. We do one a week, and every other week it's a public one, and every other week is the one that goes onto the Patreon. So you'll get access to that as well. I do 2 lineup pods per week for the Monday to Thursday and Friday to Sunday scoring period. So I go through every matchup, look for the handedness, recent stats versus left-handed pitcher, right-handed pitcher, try to find a trend so you can set the best lineup you can. And then for the $10 tier, you can get that. Plus I do a pod with Matthew Modica at DTM Baseball. We do that once a week and we pretty much go through every single team's starting pitching,
Right.
depth, the organizational depth, who they got coming up, who might make a start in 2 or 3 weeks. We try to cover every single thing. It's very lengthy, but it makes me a great player because Matt's is so prepared.
Right.
And then the $15 tier gets everything plus my FAAB pod and FAAB article. And just I try to highlight the Monday to Thursday streams, Friday to Sunday streams, rest of season players. I really try to break it down and try to go like in depth rather than just looking at numbers in the matchups. But I do like a matchup dive too. I try to do a month look at team schedule to see who has the most games, who has the least amount of games, who has a bunch of games in Cincinnati. I try to look at every angle and let everyone know about it. So that's it.
Good stuff. I use it. It's great stuff. I wish I would have started using it sooner. It's really good. But let's talk about this upcoming week. It's a tricky week. Got the All-Star break coming up. Always tricky right before and after the All-Star break. The Dodgers and Angels have a weird schedule where they do not, the Angels only have 5 games because they have a 3-game series at San Diego. They're off Thursday. They have the completion of the Highway Series against the Dodgers or Freeway Series, where 2 games in Dodger Stadium, Friday and Saturday, no Sunday game. So both the Dodgers and Angels are off on Sunday before the All-Star break.
It's pretty wild. It's a very funky schedule. The Angel schedule has me contemplating, as hot as Ohtani's been batting, it's contemplating me starting him at pitching this week in my leagues because the Padres have gone through several games recently with a bunch of swing and miss and a bunch of strikeouts. And I think Ohtani can do work versus them. And I don't know. It's hard to gauge the value of the player that I might, if I get a Monday, if I find a guy to play every single day and stream him into utility, and the pitcher that I'm going to start over Ohtani, it might tilt the edge to like a pitching value. So I got 2 different teams to make that decision with. I made my FAAB flexible so I can go either way because sometimes on Monday I have, I don't know, different gut or different process than on a Sunday. So I try to leave myself open, especially with Ohtani teams and FAAB. I try to have as much flexibility as I can to make a move for him and just have guys that can cover multiple spots. So then I could put anyone in utility and not just be forced to have a guy who's only going to play, versus 2 lefties or something like that.
How many weeks have you used Ohtani at pitcher?
I think just 2 in total.
Yeah. Was one of them that 2-step week where they had the Patriots Day game in Boston?
Correct. One was that, and I think that's the way to go. I think it's when it's a 2-step, you should do it. Except if like, it's I don't know, it's got 4 games in Colorado or something, which he did have that one weekend, which I thought it was a no-brainer too, to just keep him in Colorado. But I thought, I was going to be using him more at pitcher. It's just that I allowed myself. I think that's the beauty of him. It just it gives you the flexibility. It doesn't force you to make moves. I think that's the thing that people get too hung up on. Like, you're just forced to make this decision that's going to be life breaking. And it's like a lot of people focus on what you lose when you don't start them at one or the other. But I just try to focus on what my team gets out of it. And sometimes,
and maybe what you need.
Exactly.
If you're choosing K's, well, then fine, go this route.
Last year I had him in a main, and it was huge because I needed a whole bunch of pitching. I needed to lower my ratios, and I ended up using him in the second half a lot more as a pitcher, maybe even like 80% of the time a pitcher, and it helped me. It helped me get the points I needed to bring me to like a cash. So that's the beauty of having him, being able to do both. Now he's just on this tear that you probably wouldn't think in your right mind to bench him at batting, but like the one team I have to be able to stream into my lineup was like I think a full game, a full week of I think maybe Drew Waters or something like that, and just a pitcher I needed to replace him with. It just kind of makes sense for me to maybe go that route, but
for sure,
we'll see what happens.
So one other team with 5 games this week, the Rockies, who are on the road too to boot. So kind of it's a good week to just sit your Rockies, your marginal Rockies, which are almost every Rocky.
They have also after the All-Star break, they're at home for 3, but then that following week they all have another 5-game schedule, and it's only a 2-game home set versus Colorado on a Monday to Thursday, versus Houston, and then they're at Miami for 3. So they got a 5-3-5-6 schedule in the next 4 weeks. They actually have the lowest amount of games, 19. They're the only team under 20 games played in the next 4 weeks.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty crazy. Yeah. So that kind of made me think a little extra hard about some guys I had on my team, like Bretton Doyle. I kind of like him rest of the season. I think he's going to be the guy who doesn't lose time in the outfield because of Brian coming back. I think it might be a Profar Grichuk split. I dumped Grichuk in a bunch of leagues. I know he said the bats that were made for him wasn't working, and he was kind of getting into his head, so he ditched them, and he's been hitting better with the new old bat. But I just thought like it's in line for him to lose PT, but I kept Doyle because I think the power speed is something I'm going to need down the road, so I held on.
So did we. In one league where we have him, we held on to him too.
Good move.
For that reason. One other schedule note: the Mariners and the Orioles have played 82 games. The Rays have played 87. So you get a little tiny edge by like if you could trade a Ray for an Oriole for some, or for a Mariner. I mean, other things being equal, which of course there never are. But just it's just a little. We start getting into that minutia a little bit. Knowing how many more games you have left can matter down the stretch.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started looking at the back end of the season schedule as I was preparing to do some of these the second half drafts, and especially the underdog one that has the playoffs, and so I was kind of scouting out who was home in the last couple of weeks, who's playing in Colorado, who's in Cincinnati, and all that fun stuff. And like you said, that once it starts getting into our brain, it's something we continuously think about,
Exactly. All right, looking at week 15, who do you like hitter-wise? Who has good schedules this week?
I thought the Yankees had a nice schedule. They got all at home. They're facing 6 right-handed pitchers. So I was looking, for like Jake Bauers this weekend for a stream. I thought that was pretty good. And then actually, Billy McKinney, I thought was another good spot. I actually had to drop him in a league because I just had like 8 outfielders, and I was like, well, I don't need him. And so he was a casualty. I do like, let's see, I think Milwaukee's got a full schedule, but and all at home, which is a good park. Facing, some half good pitchers, half meh, but their offense just struggles to get going. I don't know when Rowdy Halez is going to hit the ball again, or when he's going to swing either. He's got like a 51% zone swing, and it's just it's like league average is 68 or something. It's like when you're gonna when you're gonna swing. We need you to swing the bat.
Exactly.
Texas, of course, is just loaded. They're going to Boston, Washington, so I think they're going to put up their accustomed runs, and maybe even some more.
Yeah, exactly. Going to Milwaukee real quick here. They do get Luke Weaver on Saturday, so I think that's a Rowdy Tellez homer prop day there, right there. If he's still
I hope
in the
so.
lineup at that point in time.
Yep.
I want to touch on them because they're going 6-man rotation right now with Julio Teheran with a 2.85 ERA. He doesn't miss any bats at all, but he also doesn't give up hard contact. At what point does he turn back into a pumpkin?
I don't know, I mean, I don't know. I guess I don't know how much of a pumpkin it'll be because he seemed to have made, some real changes. Whether or not those changes will, be able to be sustained like for the rest of the season. But right now, I think he's just in a good groove of giving you innings that aren't disasters, and I think that's huge. They did some stuff with his arm slot.
Mm-hmm.
They changed up the usage of his pitches, and I think that's what smart teams can really identify players that can make that kind of change and be effective. And right now, he seemed to be. I missed the boat on him. I totally dismissed him, and then it was actually like a week, like 2 weeks too late, where I was like, you know what? I think I'll take a shot on this guy. I went to go look at his his availability, and he wasn't. I said, oh, all right. Well, just when I was ready, he was gone. So
yeah, he did give up homers to the Mets in his last outing. So I think 4 of them even maybe. So maybe he's already starting that turning there. Who knows? But
yeah, they were taking all his home runs and deep shots were like lefties taking it left center, which was really interesting because like the way the ball was spinning out of the zone, they just drove it and it just spun like into that corner. It was pretty wild. Every time it was hit off the bat, I said, "Oh, that's going to be another one." And that's not like normally a power spot for lefties in City Field. So
right,
he was doing something that they picked up on, and maybe other teams will identify that and try to attack it. Maybe that's the way you do it. It's stack lefties and attack that pitch.
yeah. Mets are showing a little signs of life right now.
Yeah.
2 wins this weekend. 2-0 in July.
2-0 in July. We got to look at it like that. It's
After the worst month ever.
Oh man,
was it the worst month for the Mets ever? June. It had to be pretty high on the list of bad months ever.
Pretty high recently, yeah. I do a good job, Jeff, of not getting myself too high or too low with the Mets because I think you have to live a sane life and not to be angry at your wife and your dogs. It's just to like keep it at a level where even in the best times, it's just stay level. It's been a brutal month. It definitely has been. It's definitely put a damper on some of the possible thoughts I had of this team this year. And I think after Diaz got hurt, it kind of started that bad feeling in my stomach kind of moments. Yeah. And even though DeGrom is hurt, I still would have loved if they attempted to bring him back at some cost. Like, I don't know. Yeah, it's a different feeling without him here. As good as Verlander has done, I don't know if he's part of the team yet, So
I could see that.
Yeah.
How do you fix him? Is there a fix that you can do before the trade deadline? If you're given like the powers of Steve Cohen and you can pull off a trade of some sort, what would you be doing?
I think I might try to first. I mean, if they're really gonna go like and say we're not gonna try to win the season, which I really don't think they're going to. I would start with the bullpen and just try to get anything for Robertson and Ottavino, and try to upgrade there. But I think if they want to make a run, maybe the best route is to attack that Chicago White Sox pitching. If they're willing to part with anybody, any one of their prospects, maybe not Alvarez or Beatty or Mauricio, but if they could give up some other stuff and get another, I think they need another good anchor pitcher. I think McGill was not a good route to go. I think Carrasco's showing signs of life, swing and miss wise, but we need an upgrade there. And Peterson isn't going to be the answer. I think I don't think he's right at all. And Quintana, I hope can bring something. I had high hopes for Quintana coming into the season. So I think they need to show up the pitching, and they really just need like some thump in the lineup. It's just lacking something in the middle. As good as Vogelbach has been recently, I still think there needs to be an upgrade there. I think they're just hindering themselves by by going that route all the time. But I think Mauricio will be up soon, and I think that he can hopefully again, it's a lot to put on the youngsters because they were already aggressive with Alvarez and Beatty, and I didn't think they were going to be as aggressive with them. But
yeah, but not so with Vientos. Like they called him up, but then Buck never played him.
That was the one that bothered me, and that was also the one I asked you before, a question about tempering your bids for him. I did with Vientos because I knew the Mets, way they were going to approach him. But when he wasn't playing all the time at first, I said, okay, this is what they did with Beatty, this is what they did with Alvarez, but eventually they got it, and then he just didn't get it, and I was like, oh, this is just not good. That's the kind of bat I think they need in the middle of the lineup. Just he needs full time, and they tried to put him at first after Alonso, and that was another thing. Like this poor kid had to take the brunt of taking over Pete Alonso while they were in the middle of a losing streak, and that was just not good things. Like those are not good. That's not a good process.
No, it isn't. And even then, he wasn't playing every day. It was
right.
It's just, what are we doing here? I don't know. It was frustrating to see that there. I know, Mets fans get triggered hearing Dan Vogelbach's name even, but that's part of it there. They tried to do a platoon situation. It just didn't work out very well.
All right. Tommy Pham has worked out for us. He's been,
he has. Yes, he has.
A while,
He's clapping back at people on Twitter too. So he's got that going for him.
Unbelievable. But I was watching the Mets and keeping track of like playing time. I was like, man, when this guy gets in there, he's really stinging the ball this year. He was showing good exit velocities on fly balls, and I think the Mets brought in, if not the guy who were pushing the pulled fly ball for the Cardinal swing coach. I think it was someone in his circle. So the Mets have been, that's something that's been trying to be implemented, and Pham has bought in, and he's it's really helped them. And I think anyone who kind of caught that he was going to be the guy to take over the amount of PT when Pete went down, we all kind of jumped on it, and I'm glad he's keeping it right now because I thought it was going to disappear, but I'm glad they've known that we need him in the lineup and he's playing.
Yeah, now he's beyond a platoon guy. Now he's an actual, he's a real player.
He's a real player.
Exactly. Let's look at FAAB this week. Like you said, a lot of tempered bids this week. Wasn't crazy, but there's still some guys to be had. First of all, were you in on the Jordan Westburg sweepstakes?
I was at about $48. I lost 42. I lost 67 to 42 to Mr. John Posma, Mr. in first place in every league, Posma,
including mine. I'm in his, I should say. Yeah,
I got stuck with him in 3 drafts this year, Jeff. 2 mains and 1 auction draft, and so he got me on that one. And then I think in an OC I was in for like maybe $12, but I was nowhere close to what it was in my league. But he was available. But I have some good middle infield situations spread out across my teams. So where I had some money and I had a need was the one league where I tried to go into like the Luis Matos area. In my FAAB article, I put that Westburg was going to go for pretty much the same median bid, winning bid that Matos did, and it was 52 for Westburg, 50 median winning bid for Matos. And but Westburg was a popular player during draft champion season too. I have a ton of him. I have him on 4 DCs, and I just know that he was a player that was targeted. And I know how the NFBC crowd works. It's a lot of those same players in the main event. So I thought it was going to be I think it would have been a little higher if we all had some money left. But I think the prices he went for was pretty good. He went for a max of 177, which is definitely a ton there. But just to have that much money left, I don't know how much that team went down to, but that's pretty big investment at this point.
Yeah, it is. It really is. I saw 52 and one of mine was the winning bid. Another one was like 59, and then one it was well over. It was closer to the high. It was the 177 actually. So there you go. That was my league. I did not even have 70, which was the second place bid. I didn't even have that left, I don't think. But so it goes. Other hitters. It was tough. I think there's a lot of like useful mix and match names. There weren't too many big names this week. Who did you find yourself targeting?
So I had let's see, I pulled it up. I was targeting, so like for guys in the outfield. I was looking like Jason Heyward's way, to be honest with you, for that Monday to Thursday. He's got 4 games.
Yeah.
Versus a righty, versus what I think are good matchups with the Pirates and Oviedo, Beto, and Luis Ortiz. I snatched Will Benson back up.
Oh, you found him available somewhere. Nice.
Yeah, he was available in my auction league. I actually had him. I thought he was going to lose more playing time. I thought he was even going to lose some playing time versus the righties. You know, I didn't think he was going to stay playing as much as he has. And then he started versus a lefty today, which kind of caught me by surprise a little bit. And that was sitting Senzel for him. You know, that's what I thought what they were going to do was go Senzel versus a lefty, but they didn't. So I got back in on him. I had a bunch of I did a little stash with Zach Neto. I got him for $9 in a main. Yeah, I like the skill set. I think a lot of people are upset because they paid a lot of money for him and they expected more. But I mean, he does have 6 home runs and 5 stolen bases, 199 plate appearances with good bat to ball skills. You know, good hard contact. So I think he should be back after the All-Star break.
And he has no like minor league experience either. So to be able to fact that he's holding his own with so little minor league experience at such a young age,
I think
he was in the draft last year, for crying out loud.
I know. So I think that's pretty fascinating. You know, I had some bids in for just some like, you know, bench depth. I had JP Crawford was probably behind Zach Neto, playing every day. He's leading off. He's actually got more homers than he had last season. He did some work at Driveline, and maybe it's kind of like, you know, picking up for him a little bit. And I did a little Edward Cabrera stash. So that's caught me by surprise, but he had a really good month. The last month he was healthy.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to see if he's going to be back within a month or so I can get him in the lineup.
Well, yeah, and if they're going to rest Perez at all, well, that's the natural pivot. So
yep,
I could see that more so than Rogers. I think I'd rather have Cabrera than Rogers.
I think so too. It's the tearing the lat that's on the opposite, you know, handedness of what you throw. I don't know how that happened. Maybe he slept on it or something. But
right.
But I also had some bids on Jorge Polanco as a stash too. Him and Neto were pretty much right neck to neck for me in a couple leagues, and you know, I think I think it was a good time. Like I had some. I think with a lot of teams having 7 games this week, I had a lot of matchups that really couldn't be improved too much. So I kind of went for the long game and tried to stash some players. I was even look at, you know, post All-Star break. There's the Phillies and the Padres actually have a doubleheader.
That's right.
Coming back. So they have a 4-game set. And so I was trying to look at that too, if I could speculate on any like bullpen arms, maybe that might pitch a couple games. But it's like, you know what? I don't know if that's really, it's probably a good process if you need some good clean innings, but my teams wouldn't allow it. So I said, just let's try to like, because, you know, everyone always talks about how they assess their teams at the All-Star break, right? So I just sat here. It's like, well, maybe I should just do the things that other teams might do now, like speculate on a closer, speculate on an injured guy. So I tried to go that route. So it was kind of a little different for me. Because it's mostly just like trying to pound volume, and even though I still tried to find avenues for that, it was really you know, trying to more look at the long game.
Adam weighs in, says stashes seem to be the thing this week. Saw Trevor Story, Chris Sale, O'Neill Cruz across his online championships this week.
Nice. Yeah. If Story was available in the OC, I mean, yeah, that's great. I would have snatched him up in an OC a long time ago if he was free. That's for sure. And Chris Sale, I think the news on him earlier in the week was, I guess, kind of positive, you know, like it was clean imaging. He said he feels good.
Yeah.
And those are good things. It's whether or not, you know, he's able to sustain it when he gets back is going to be key. So he went for, he got scooped up this week, Sale, and I think it's 19 leagues for as high as $24.
Yeah.
So that is a good shot right there for sure.
Absolutely. Had a couple questions in the chat about Oscar Colas. Is he a good stash?
Maybe, you know, the skills in in AAA have been good. He's barreling up the ball pretty well. I think it was about 11%. 12% barrel rate, 20 to 8K to walk in AAA, 875 OPS. His problem was chasing in the zone, right? I think the contact was good in the majors. It wasn't anything special, but it wasn't bad. And it was just chasing, and he just hit a lot of ground balls up in the majors. But I guess I was looking to stash him possibly, and I just was trying to figure out what the White Sox situation is. It's like they have Benintendi, they have Robert, and they do their platoon with Sheets in right field.
Right.
So just trying to figure out like where they're going to make room for him to play every single day. And I don't think they're going to bring him up because they want him to get some plate appearances in. So I think it depends what kind of depth of the league it is, but it's tough, because I think you really have to have maybe a minor slot would really make it work. But in the NFBC, I was considering it, and it may be a good move. Maybe they move Benintendi, and or maybe they just say, all right, Gavin Sheets, like we're moving on from your consistent mediocre performances.
Yeah. Anthony Givaldi takes away my pun title here. He's going for the pun crown of the week. Yeah, maybe the White Sox need a coloscopy.
Wow.
Right.
Pretty good one, Anthony.
Yeah. All right. Kansas City Moose there. Way to go, Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
All right. You got to move to pitching after that. There's nowhere else to go after seeing that. So let's talk Atlanta Braves. Kolby Allard.
Yeah.
He was one of the guys that I was targeting in a couple places. And hey, I just want Braves pitchers. I know they might get Wright and Fried back at some point, but Allard's in there right now. Struck out 8 guys in his first start back. Looked pretty good.
He did look pretty good. Stark difference from the Texas version of him. Dropped his fastball down to 32% after being at 53-ish. Jumped the curveball up and jumped the cutter up, and got good results from it. Got a lot of swing and miss on the curve. Very, very loopy looking, and kind of had a little Blake Snell going up on, was hitting the top of the zone nice, dropping down the curve. So, and I think it's a good shot to take. I think you mentioned the prices you got him for was $7, $13. I think that's the sweet spot for me. I think I had him maybe in like this, $3 to $7 range in a couple of spots in the waterfall. I had Ryne Nelson ahead of him because I was just a little more secure with, I think, his rest of season outlook as a mainstay in the rotation. But I think Allard could be really something. I mean, he's a former number 1 pick, right? And he's just got all that experience being the hype guy. So he might be able to put it together.
Talk to me about Ryne Nelson, because you were on him, and you put together a lot of good stuff in your Patreon about him.
Yeah, so it just he really kind of changed his pitch mix, and I think those are the biggest things that we can take forth. He increased his changeup usage in his last 3 starts, and those 3 starts is 19 innings pitch, 18 Ks, 2.3 ERA, 24 to 4 K to walk. The swing and strike on the season with his pitches and his prior 3 starts for the 4-seam was 9.5%, and then after that it's been 11.3. The changeup went from 13.2% to 18.3 swing and strike, and the slider went from 12.5 to 27.8. So it seems like the usage also is making all the other pitches play up. The zone contact has gone down, the swing and strike rate has gone up, O swing has gone up. So I kind of like it, and I think that, when we can make any quick movement on a pitch mix change, I think it's huge, and I think you just got to try to lean into your gut, and you can't wait too long in the NFBC, right? Because if you wait too long, he's going to be gone. So I thought he was going to go for a little higher. I was glad to get him for $8, Ryne Nelson. So I just think that, again, it doesn't mean all this stuff is going to stay and he's going to do this every single game, but it's good to see him lean on something new and try it and be effective with it. So we got to go with that. Yeah.
Did you get any Matt Manning in your life?
No, but he was in my list. He was in my waterfall. I think he had a better week than you could have anticipated. 2 tough
Yeah,
games versus Texas and one in Colorado, and he was just average, but I think average works right now with the potential to get better,
yeah, I agree.
and it's going to be interesting to see what happens there with the Tigers. This because Reese Olson's been really good, and like if they're at full staff, is he the guy that's going to get squeezed out because he's been, like pretty good while he's been up. So
For sure.
I wonder what they're going to do. Come like if they get the Mize, Scooble, and because Scooble's going to be the prize next week. Jeff,
Yeah.
once he goes out there, there's not too many guys that have his 26K to 7 walks in 300 innings pitched out there on the wire for us to get. So he's going to be, I think, a big fish.
Yeah, and the thing is, we haven't been able to bid on him, but he gets 2 starts. He
Right.
gets Oakland and then Toronto, but both are in Detroit. So good place to pitch, obviously. And then who knows when he'll pitch next after the break. So we'll see about that. That's the thing is like, it's frustrating because home start against Oakland. We want that, but we're not going to get that there. But like you said, yeah. And Manning's next start is also a home start against Toronto. So he misses out schedule wise on some of the goodness there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of guys speculated on Kyle Wright too. Did you have any interest in that? Because that shoulder really kind of bugs me.
It does. It does.
He wasn't really right this year at all in the beginning of the season. And he was just the kind of guy too that I think kind of went off the career year bump up.
Do we have an ETA on Wright?
I think they said possible end of July. Maybe beginning of August is the last thing I read. So that's a long stash.
It is. Yeah. And Soroka pitched well and Allard pitched well. So their urgency isn't necessarily needed right now. Maybe, who knows? We'll see. We got to, like I said, a month. We still have a month. Maybe Morton gets banged up. He tends to be a little fragile. Who knows with Soroka? He definitely is a little fragile. But yeah, I mean, right now they don't have that pressing need, which is nice to be a Braves fan right now.
Definitely is. I give them all the respect and credit in the world because they've built something marvelous, to root for and to enjoy as baseball fans. It's something else.
Exactly.
Yep.
Once again, I found this week was tough to find relief pitching. Tough to find closers. I mean, there's some pitchers that are interesting, but roles may not be there. What are you doing? So first of all, who did you find as maybe a closer stash for this week?
I thought good ways to go was Daniel Hudson was still available in some leagues. I think he was like 79% owned coming into the week. It looks like he got picked up in 11 leagues, so I'm assuming he's all the way there. He went for as high as 148. I had a couple of like $6 bids on him. It's still not a lock he's going to get any of the saves, but it's the allure of the Dodgers and them winning so many games. I think with the Yankees showing that it's going to be Clay Holmes a lot in high leverage, like Tommy Canley was a good way to look. He's been really good since he came back. He doesn't walk guys. I really like even when I take a shot at like just a middle reliever to put in the lineup for like a 7-game week like this. I just want a guy who doesn't throw a lot of balls and like just going to protect my whip, and ball percentage is something I really lean on a lot for that. Guys just keep it in the zone, not going to put guys on and, allow a lot of hard damage to make it even worse. I think Carlos Hernandez is interesting. Had some big
after the Chapman trade, right?
Yeah. But I've had him in the watch list since spring training, Jeff.
Yeah.
I really had. Like, honestly.
Before it was cool, you had him.
Yeah, he was just one of those guys. I just saw like, he's got the arsenal of a starter and it's been better. And it really plays up in the pen. And the thing about him is he had a lot of blow-ups early that kind of kept him under the radar, I think, if you're looking at him.
Right.
Some big blow-ups that if you take those away, the numbers look really shiny. And I think, excuse me, I think that I don't know what's going on with, Alex Lang. And every time I look at the numbers, whether it's the last 2 weeks or season totals, like Jason Foley just seems like the better pitcher, but I guess the better pitcher is being used in the most important moments in the high leverage spot. So
yeah.
I think those kind of guys, but just really, I actually got Trevor May. He was available, I think, in 1 league or 2 leagues, and I got him for $4 on a team where, so this is, it's pretty wild, but my second main event team, I just shot up the leaderboard this week out of nowhere, but
Nice.
I'm 22nd overall, Jeff. And do you want to guess how many save points I have? I'll give you one guess.
Like 5.
46.5. I have the lowest like category of anyone in the top, I think 50. I don't know how it's even that high with so low. So that's probably going to be what I'm focused on. And so I looked at that and I said, all right, well, May's been not great ratio wise, but I need these saves if I'm going to make a run there. So if you can gobble up any amount for $4, I'll take 3 or 4. And if he's gone or he gets traded, or if he's just bad, I'll just move on from there.
Yeah, good luck.
Good luck. Exactly.
I've done the Trevor May thing. He's not what we
man.
technically call a good pitcher,
Yeah,
but he may get a few saves, so you could try that. Trust me, I know last year our best team, we kind of we didn't, we de-emphasized saves at the draft table, to say the least. And we tried to catch up late, and we had those 4 relievers going, and they all stunk. So it's frustrating. Like Ian Kennedy will never sit at my table. Let's just put it that way. But after what happened last year, but yeah, it's nice knowing you have one thing to address if everything else is firing on all cylinders.
Yeah, and it's just tough to speculate right now because a lot of the teams who may be buyers or sellers, it's just hard to gauge. Like, I heard someone suggest that baseball should move the trade deadline back, just sort of like more teams have the ability to decide if they want to be buyers or sellers. But I think they get enough time as it is, And
I agree. It should be the other way around. Move it up.
Move it up. I know. So I think if you could find a team, that can, it's really bare. It's bare right now. So if you can, what I found myself doing this week was just looking at the top closer skills and making sure no one was slipping, So I was just trying to look at the differences, in the month to month or just from the career and just see if there was any avenues. And it really wasn't. All the guys at the top are doing really well. And
they really are. Class A, except for Class A today, but we'll give him that. We'll grant him a hiccup here and there.
I think he's got 24 right now. That's he's done.
He's all right.
That'll get you at least 8-9 points on its own in a league.
Exactly. One last question. Texas, they traded for Aroldis Chapman. Do you like him or do you like Will Smith the rest of the way?
I like Will Smith right now. I don't think they'll mess with that. They're a first place team. They got it going. There's no reason to shake anything up. And in my opinion, I think that's it's working well right now. Bochy likes Smith. He's done nothing to lose the job. He's been really good this year. So I think if it comes to a point where, he's gotten to a bad stretch, maybe they'll slip Chapman in a little bit, but I don't think they're done either. Honestly, I think and I like the way the bullpen's shaping up. I like this guy, Grant Anderson. He's got a funky delivery, and he seems to have some nasty stuff. And I still think that Joe Barlow and Leclerc can contribute in some way, not as closers, but they have a role on this team. And I think they'll add one more option to really show down their approach to the season, because Josh Sport's been really good too.
Until this week. Until everybody started talking him up, and then he had a couple of bad outings.
It's like, look at this 40% K rate. It's still 39, but with we're hinging on
and dropping. Down to 38 now. But that's all right. And then he and Barlow gave up the homer today, and but it ended up being meaningless. But still, and Will Smith, I think he hasn't pitched. Like he's kind of on the Bednar path right now, where he hasn't had a save chance in over a week. So I'd like to get him back in the mix, especially because I just traded for him in a keeper league. So
did you?
We'll see. A week ago on Monday morning, I did it, got it in the RotoWire staff keeper league. So of course he spent the whole week not pitching, and then they brought him in Saturday to get like the last 2 outs. I think it was yesterday that Barlow gave up that 2-run home run, and so they brought in Smith, and he got 2 outs there, and but it wasn't a save chance. So thanks, yay. But whatever. It's not about me. It isn't. But I am making that trade. Rob, tell everybody where they can find you.
Yes, on Twitter at Deadpool Hitter. I'm also in charge of the at Pull Hitter Pod account and at Launch Angle that I do with Jeff Hemmerman and Rob Silver. On the Patreon, just search Pull Hitter and you'll find my Patreon there. Patreon does offer a free week into that $5 entry tier that I mentioned.
Nice.
Yeah. And that's it. You catch me talking a lot every week. I'm about at like 7-8 pods a week, Jeff. So I'm catching up to you.
You're going to pass me at that pace, my friend. I'm not doing that many, although I do the radio too. So there you go.
The volume in your lifetime. That's what I'm trying to catch up to.
Okay. Well, there you go. Keep plugging. You'll
Thank
get
you,
there.
Jeff. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks again to Rob DiPietro at Deadpool Hitter on Twitter. Thank you for listening to RotoWire. We'll be back at you again with Fred Zinke on Tuesday, the 4th of July. Thanks for listening. Take care.